Hi there, I'm Rebecca and a really warm welcome back to my channel, PumpkinBecki. In this week's video we're going to be having a look at one of my two Japanese larches, the Cascade. Let's get started. I have two Japanese larches. I have done previous videos all about them and their development. They both started off life from Heron's Bonsai Nursery, saplings, starter trees, call them what you will. Both very similar, uprightish, sticks in pots. And then suddenly I had this idea that I wanted them to be very different from each other. One remains an upright and is in full leaf right now. It's absolutely gorgeous. This one, my Cascade in training, semi-cascade, probably is closer, is tighter, and that's because of the fact that it is draped down, so that's suppressing growth hormones. But I think it's time it went up a pot size, and yeah, just give it a bit of an overhaul really. Take off the old needles which are still hanging on. It would also be lovely if we could perhaps develop its shape a little bit more today. It's looking quite nice from the side. I rather like it. It's obviously bursting to get going this year, so let's not leave it any longer and actually get into the repotting. I have got this double wire thing going on, which was what was helping me bring the shape of the Cascade in. I think they are just pushed into the soil though. They certainly weren't connected to the pot. Quite a bit of weed growth to get rid of from the top. I did my best to keep on top of the flushing of growth that larches have. They can have like 3 or 4 flushes of growth. So to try and encourage lots of back budding, I did make sure I kept on top of that. So it also helped keep the internodes nice and short, and that was pretty successful. Larch really do love water, so in the summer do make sure that I leave these sitting with a tray underneath them, and I keep just a little tiny bit of water in the bottom of them. It gives them a little bit of humidity, but they are such thirsty trees. So I've already prepared a pot for this. There is some drainage mesh in the bottom, just some fine door mesh, some of my usual Akadama pumice lava mixture. There definitely are some dead roots here, and they will be getting removed, but there's also some nice live roots. There's a chance actually that I gave it too much water last year. It's almost roots trying to come back up, and I wonder whether they were sort of trying to escape the moisture. That's possible. We learn from our mistakes. Can't see any nasties in here though, so that's good. But it certainly doesn't look like I particularly did anything with the roots last time. I'm trying to be more conscious of the roots. I think I've always been afraid of doing root work, just because in my bonsai history, when I was young, If I lost trees, it tended to be when I'd done root pruning, though in reality it was probably I was trying to do root pruning and branch pruning at the same time, and my tree did not like it. So I need to start really trying to develop better root systems, because this one is crazy. See, I've got roots that are trying to cross back over the top of the pot, and I definitely don't want those doing that, so let's get those relocated. Okay, so I've had a quick look back at last year's video, and actually I didn't repot them last year. I simply tried to do a bit of wiring on them. Now I would have expected to see an awful lot more root growth in this pot than that. So that's really weird. Maybe I did give them too much water. They certainly seem to need it. Well, hopefully this will get things moving back in the right direction. I can feel there's quite a dense knuckle under there, and it looks like that's the remnants perhaps of the old taproot, so that can definitely come off. If it's not the taproot, then it's one that's trying to replace the taproot. Actually, I've got lots of quite chunky downward facing things, so let's get rid of all of those. Some pretty thick roots happening over here. We're certainly going to start sort of reducing those, if not totally taking them off, then at least taking them back to a piece of finer growth. Yeah, I would say it definitely needs a drier year this year. Just to see if that helps improve the root development. I'm surprised, I mean it did so much top growth last year. I really would have expected to see much more root growth. And it's actually disappointing to see how little the root has developed on. I'm now wondering if my other pot is going to be slightly over-horsing it, which might also make the roots struggle. Okay, I'll have a think about that. And I guess that's kind of the trouble with making decisions about the top growth without actually addressing the roots. I don't think I've ever looked at the roots of these, not like this. They were so young when I got them, I think I just sort of let them get on with it. And that was a mistake. And I think because the tops were doing so well, I was just thinking, oh, the roots must be fine then. If I can at least get rid of the ones that are growing in silly directions, that would be good. Try and encourage the little fine feeder roots to branch more. See, there's one here that comes out of the slightly deeper root base and comes up, goes across and back, plus a bit upwards. Yeah. Wow. Badly done indeed. I'm going to come in here and try to cut that knuckle off. There we go. I don't mind the height of this root because I think the tree, rather than sitting like that, will tend to rest back on it a little bit. So that's fine. I'm quite happy with the height of that one. So I've looped a really thick wire back into the pot and just brought it back out of the side of the pot there. And I've also got 2 thinner tie down wires. I want the big wire to be able to come into contact really nicely with the root ball. So just making sure there are no roots being squashed there. I'm actually going to use that one first. That's got it really firmly in the pot, which is brilliant. As I said, the idea is that the tree will sort of lean over onto this higher root, so that's working well. And then I'm just going to bring my tie down wires off any surface roots. I haven't got much to tie onto, and I think I'm going to damage those. That's more than enough. As I always say when we start tamping down the soil components, what we're not doing is trying to crush them. You're almost trying to tessellate the different shapes together in the most robust way you can. So you just keep tamping until the chopstick starts to bounce back at you. And filling in those holes with more soil components. Obviously there's not much root in here at all. There's really only root in this top section at the moment. There's nothing down here. So it's not like you're trying to push the soil components in amongst the roots. You're just trying to eliminate any big air pockets. And you're just sort of firming all those different shaped and sized particles together until they form a nice firm bond. I'm going to take that root off because it is now pointing skywards. It's better. And even after all this tamping down, you'll still find that when you water it, the surface will probably sink in places again, and that's fine. Just top it up with more soil So that was a pretty speedy repot, but now what I need to do is come through and just take off any old needles which the tree has retained. There are still some. It doesn't need them, it's just going to clutter up the branches. You can do it with tweezers or just simple gentle fingertip pulling off will probably be enough. And just watch out for the nice new growth that's coming. You can see I've got some little dead stubs. I can just snip those off. And I've also got things like this, where there is a little shoot that's come off. It has a bud. But if we follow that shoot back, we've then got another bud and another bud, but they're squished up against this piece of wood. What I might actually do is remove the tip, leave a little bit to allow it to just seal itself off, and that's now freed up this bud from the restriction of this branch which was coming off here. In the fullness of time I'll be able to remove that little stub. I'm just giving myself a little bit of a safety net really. Got another little bud that's kind of trapped in here. I'm going to pinch that out if I can. There we go. Because I don't want that area to become too congested or thickened. So I don't want 3 shoots coming out from the same area. And here I've got 1, 2, 3. This one is right up against the trunk. So I'm just going to use my nail to scrape that off. Here I've got another one trying to grow in towards the trunk. This piece of growth has emerged and developed into quite a thick branch. When you compare it to the piece of wood behind, it's actually on a par with the thickness of that, if not actually a fraction thicker. This piece of growth is much finer, so what I'm actually going to do now is remove that thicker end so that we start to get that taper developing nicely. Also going to take the tip off to stop it extending too far. On this branch there are actually 3 buds coming out really close to each other, 1, 2 and then a third one here. I'm going to remove the one that points in towards this branch. I think that's a pretty good place to leave it for today, so we'll give it a quick water. And then I'm just adding some moss on to make sure that the roots are nicely covered and protected. Because there are some that are still a little bit exposed. So I think that's a pretty good place to leave this tree for now. I could try applying some wire, but to be honest, I think I want the roots to really start to become healthy again. If I start messing around too much with trying to suppress the growth on the top, it's going to impact the roots. So for this time at least, I'm going to leave it well alone. Right, well that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share and subscribe to me here on YouTube. And until next time, bye!